Hi, everyone. I wanted to quickly share some of my observations about the really engaging and interesting and detailed stories that you all shared on our Canvas site about times when you received helpful feedback and times when you received feedback that was not at all useful, not at all helpful. I wanted to just start off by telling you that your experience is very consistent with what the research says. A review of over 100 studies that was done literally 20 some years ago, a kind of a classic study. They found that on average feedback was helpful, but in about a third of the studies it actually hurt later performance. That is, feedback can be damaging. So what did you find? Well, here's what I found reading your stories. These were the characteristics of when you found feedback to be helpful. A couple of big things at the very beginning. The person seemed to be sincerely trying to help you succeed. They were supportive of you. And it was somebody that you valued. That's very powerful. And I would argue that if those things aren't present, almost anything they say after that is not going to be useful to you. Very powerful. Next, and this was important, they offered genuine positive feedback, often at the beginning. In other words, it wasn't just negative. Next, they gave useful advice, concrete, specific, detailed. They offered specific examples. And in doing so, they helped to create a way to fix the situation. And they often provided examples of how they had improved based on their own personal experience. Their feedback was direct. It wasn't sugar-coated. It was direct and to the point, but they avoided using negative language and they focused on opportunities to become more successful. They asked for your opinion. They listened. They offered to help personally, asked what they could do to help you be more successful. And in doing so, they often gave you useful insights or new perspectives that you had previously not had. The net effect was that they motivated you to do better, and in doing so, they showed confidence in you. When the feedback wasn't helpful, the person didn't seem concerned about your success. They were often emotional when they gave it, visibly frustrated, visibly emotional. Sometimes you can see on the right-hand screen, even yelling and threatening. The net effect of this is that it damaged your own self-efficacy, your sense of whether or not you were capable. Very, very damaging. When they did provide feedback, it was often vague. There were no clear takeaways. They'd give you a conclusion like, you're not ready yet, but they wouldn't give you any reasons. And they were unable to offer any advice, even if you asked. And they didn't offer any helpful suggestions or resources. It was kind of my way or the highway. And sometimes you felt blindsided. It seemed to come out of no place. There had been no discussion or hint of this before. They didn't provide necessary training. And in one of the worst examples, they actually gossiped to a coworker about what they told you that was negative. In one instance, and I've seen this any number of times from other graduate students, the feedback that you received, it wasn't even objectively true. They didn't even have their facts straight, and they failed to listen. So this brings me to this idea that I really want to emphasize. It's this concept of trust and empathy, that you want to get feedback from somebody who cares, who you trust, who you sense is on your side. They've got your welfare in mind. They're trying to do this for your interest, not for theirs. And in fact, as one person said to me, not in this class, but actually in a very large corporation, a senior manager told me, if the person doesn't really care about me, the feedback will probably be of little value. One important thing is always to avoid making inferences. An inference is something you conclude after watching somebody's behavior. A good example would be to tell somebody, you don't care what I think. Well, unless the person explicitly said to you that they don't care what you think, that's something that's an inference. It might be true that they didn't ask for your opinion, and you can say that. You can say, well, you didn't ask for my opinion. I wish you would ask for my opinion. That's fine. But to say you don't care what I think invites an argument, because the person's going to say, that's not true. I do care what you think. And you might say, well, I don't think you do. And the person said, well, I do. Well, I don't think you do. Well, I do. It sounds like a Monty Python routine, or somebody who makes a presentation on behalf of a team, and in the middle of the presentation, they kind of never got around to mentioning the other team members' names in the presentation. And you wind up saying, well, you obviously wanted all the credit for yourself. Well, that's an inference. And the person's going to say, no, I don't. It was just a mistake. Well, I think you do want all the credit for yourself. That's why you didn't say our names. Well, that's not true. Well, I think it is true. Well, it's not true. Again, another Monty Python routine. And doing that kind of thing just invites defensive response to whatever you're about to say to them. Finally, I want to emphasize what you guys pointed out, that balanced feedback is really helpful. If you don't sometimes offer positive feedback, negative feedback is not going to work. Now, it doesn't always have to happen in the same conversation, but you have to be known as the kind of person who says positive things as well as somebody who can give constructive negative feedback. If they only hear the negatives from you, they will turn it off. That said, here's a simple little rubric that you could use to prepare for giving feedback. You have to do this in your own language, but it can help you prepare and get ready. 1, objectively describe what happened. Almost like a third party was describing it. Don't make any accusations. Don't make any inferences about the person's motives. Don't say anything about their personality or their personal qualities. Just describe what happened. What was the event? What was the behavior? What occurred? That's it. You should know how to describe that as briefly as possible before you go to give the feedback. Next, describe your reactions to what happened. What were your feelings about it? What consequences might follow from what happened? And by that I mean, would there be a consequence on the team, on the business, on a client, perhaps on the person's career goals? What are the consequences? Why does it matter? If it didn't matter, you wouldn't be giving them feedback, so explain why it matters to them. Third, focus on solutions. Stop talking about the past. Don't discuss who's right, who's wrong, or anything else. Just say, listen, okay, this is what happened. Here's why I think it matters. Let's talk about the future. No need to talk about the past anymore. Let's talk about the future. Talking about the future is much less threatening than talking about the past. If you keep talking about the past, the person is going to get really defensive because they cannot change the past. So don't focus on who's right or wrong. Have an alternative or a suggestion on your own, and listen. Invite other alternatives. A two-way conversation. Pivotal, again, from your own comments as well as my own experience. In the end, a simple summary. What have we agreed to? Okay, sounds like this would be a good thing to do. A simple summary. And if you put that all together, you can get one slide that basically is a way to prepare. Can I objectively describe the event? Can I describe my reactions or why the event matters? And do I have a solution to offer, or at least a suggestion, without making it feel like it's my way or the highway? Instead, inviting the person's input about what's going on and what the best path forward might be, because they might have a better idea as well. Emphasizing two things again. You cannot give feedback when you are upset. You should wait. That is a basic rule of thumb in workplace and with family, kids, parents, romantic partners, and on and on and on. Don't be emotional at the time. So that means sometimes we have to wait. It might be an hour, it might be a day, but we have to wait. Calm down. 2, the person has to believe that you care about them, that this is in their interest. And that has to be sincere, because if it's not there, if that ingredient is not there, almost anything you do thereafter will fail. And that means that at the moment you go to give feedback, the likely success of the feedback has been largely determined by whether or not the person thinks you care and you're somebody that they value and respect and they trust you. And if those ingredients are there, even if you stumble about how to say it, it will probably turn out to be helpful. So just a few thoughts. Thanks again for your excellent examples from your own personal experiences. I very much appreciate it, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your days. Thank you.